Okay, so what we're looking at for these notes, chapter 8, is regression wisdom. We are just kind of going back and getting a little smarter and understanding what can happen with linear regression. And so the first thing, let's just highlight our vocabulary. Okay, an extrapolation, and you might have heard me talk about extrapolation some, and some of you started using it correctly. But now I'm expecting you all to know how to use it because we're talking about it and we're actually going to focus on this some. An extrapolation, when an unsafe prediction is made using a model. Okay. It is not safe to make predictions when X values are not within the given X range. So what that means is if I have a data set that is only from 1950 to 1990, I do not want to make predictions outside of here. I only can make predictions, safe predictions, between 1950 and 1990. So any prediction like 1995 is an extrapolation. Fit it there. Okay. Anything like 1940 is also an extrapolation. So whenever it's outside of the given data set, we're going to say it's an extrapolation because you really don't know if the model is going to continue. Sometimes models change outside of the data set, and so we can only truly safely predict within the data set. Okay, the next thing we have is leverage. Leverage points are those that have an X value far from the X bar, which is just the mean of X. Okay, so like these points, you see how they're kind of far away from the mean? These those are called leverage points because they're farther away from the center. If a point's kind of in the center, it doesn't have leverage. But the farther you go out from the center on the left or right, that means a point has leverage. Okay. A high leverage point will actually pull the line close to them, and it has a really large effect on it. Okay. Sometimes their residual can be so low it's 0. Okay, so here is a scatter plot, and I have the best fit line there. So watch what happens if I add another point. If it's out here on the right, it doesn't really have, it has somewhat of an effect. It has high leverage, and the residual would actually be 0, right? Because it's on the line. But sometimes high leverage points are really going to affect the line. So let's erase that point again. Oops, I don't want to erase. Oh, no. Okay, so I learned my lesson. The eraser does not erase one point, it erases all. Okay, so I'm going to put the best fit line out, right? And so if I add another point in the center, it doesn't really do much, right? But if I add it on the left or right, look at that point. It is really changing the slope of that line because it has high leverage. So I'm going to put this one right here. Let's try over here on the right. Here's kind of follows the line, but as I start moving it, look how much it affects that point. It's like a teeter-totter. It has a lot of leverage. Closer inside, it doesn't really affect it that much. When I get outside to the sides, it really affects it. So any point that really moves a line, that's said to have high leverage because it also it's on the outside. A leverage point, so this is a leverage point right here, right? Because it's outside, but it's not high leverage because it doesn't change it. This one down here, now that has leverage, but it also has high leverage because it really changed that slope. Okay, another word you need to know is influential points. And influential points, if you omit a point from the data, it results in a different model. It's an influential point. So the thing that you really want to focus on the most is the slope. If the slope changes a lot, then that means it's influential. Okay? All right, so we're going to look at these 4, and I want you to ask yourself, does it have leverage? And if it's influential. Okay? So we're looking at the star points, so you can kind of see where the stars are. Let's see if we can answer what those are. Okay, so for the first one, it doesn't really have leverage because it's inside the middle of the points. It's in the mean of the points. And it's not influential because it really doesn't change the slope. It just moves the line down a little bit. Point B, it does have leverage because it's an extreme x value. But it's not influential because it doesn't really change the line. And point C does have leverage because it's an extreme x, and it's influential because look at that slope. It gets much flatter. So part of the big thing for Chapter 8 is being able to identify leverage and influential points. You also have to look at trends, or you have to look at extrapolation. The last thing that we don't have on here, but we need to know, is we need to look at trends in data. And what that means is sometimes you're going to have to split your graph up. So let's say I have a graph like this. It kind of curves up and then it flattens out, right? What you would do for this is you would look at this data as 2 sets. I would say that this is one data set, and then this over here is the other data set. And you compare those 2 different things because they follow 2 different patterns. And so you can actually break up data into different sections and look at each one specifically, and you can make an equation for this set, and then you can make an equation for this set, and then you can use that equation to make predictions inside of this data set and inside of the second data set.